Thank you
Yeah.
so much for that, Chris. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, why don't we skip on over into our first segment, our second segment here, a Q&A discovery. I've got some more questions I'd like to explore with you.
Awesome.
As far as the business, you kind of explained a little bit about it there, but could you dive in a little bit more about Belong, as far as its model and its mission? You did speak to these points a little bit, but maybe you could expand on that.
Oh, 100%, Chris. So yes, like I said before, so Belong is a branded apparel e-commerce based business that supports youth and mental health. So the way that Belong does this is by donating 10% of all purchases to the CMHA Youth Awareness Program. Now, the CMHA is the Canadian Mental Health Association, a great organization. I've had, throughout my high school career and even middle school, elementary school, I've had presentations done by them to talk about mental health, even from a young age. And I think it's made a really big impact on me. Amazing people. Anyways, that's why I chose them as my organization. And anyway, so Belong, in a way, it's a social enterprise, right? There is the apparel aspect, but it's the whole point of it is apparel with meaning.
Yeah.
And that's the two and two. Yeah, that's what it is. And what I found, Chris, is that a lot of people ask me, oh, why did you choose apparel for mental health, right? So when you think of an advertising standpoint, so you think you see clothing every day. Everyone's wearing clothing, and you really can't go out without clothing, right? So what I found is it's like if you can create something that a bunch of people can see every day and ask about it, then that's amazing. So what I found is even when I wear some of my own apparel, I'll get asked about it. Oh, what's that shirt? What's the pillars on the back mean? So which is what I should tell you. The 4 pillars of Belong is inclusivity, hope, health, and awareness, and those are the 4 big attributes to overall mental health and positive mental health as well. So I paired the apparel and the mental health together and put it on apparel because, like I said, it's something that everyone can see every day. It's easy to ask about, and it just gets the conversation going. Because if someone asks, a customer of mine who has bought something, say, "Oh, what is that shirt? Can you explain to me what's Belong mean? What's the puzzle logo mean?" And when they explain it, they'll say, "Wow, this is great. Maybe I'll look more into mental health, or maybe that'll get the conversation going, or maybe." So it's just, that's why I created it. And that's why I think it's unique, right? Because we see a lot of apparel now, which it can be, have an amazing design, amazing feel from a quality standpoint. But I believe apparel with meaning is the #1 selling point, and it is the best. As an entrepreneur, it's the best thing that you're not only selling, great quality apparel, of course, but it's the meaning behind it, and that's what I love.
Yeah. A couple of things you said there that are really interesting. One, of course, the meaning aspect to it all. Even for myself now, I'm finding, the types of purchases that I make are going to be, especially when it comes to clothing, but not limited to clothing, are aligned with values that I stand for and I believe in, and there's substance to that. There's depth to it, as opposed to what you said, something that might have a nice design to it, but is quite shallow, really, in nature. So, yeah, it's certainly been a trend. I've noticed that within the market, and obviously you have as well. But the second point as well, what I find really interesting about this is that how you've I guess chosen the social cause or issue, and how your brand fits into that. A big part of mental health, we had a guest on the show earlier in the year, is, like you said, it's about starting conversations. Quite simply, it can be a really challenging topic to have for people. Although things are getting better, it is getting easier. It's still, especially for the first time, probably for somebody, it is a difficult thing to take on. But what I like about your brand is that it offers, like you said, that opportunity for a conversation to take place. And it might not necessarily start in a way that's like centered on that person and his or her personal issues, but it's addressing a bigger cause, a bigger point that allows for, maybe segues into the personal side a little bit more. So yeah, I think that's really quite compelling, really interesting. Yeah. Okay. Well, I have another question here for you. And this one's on the side of mentorship. Every good entrepreneur along the way is usually aligned him or herself with someone to kind of fill in some of those gaps of knowledge. It's almost like an unwritten rule in entrepreneurship. Once you've proverbially made it, you oftentimes will go back and lend a helping hand to someone else and guide them along. For you, has there been anyone in particular that's kind of helped?
Yes, Chris. So whenever I talk about my business, I have to say it is a group effort. So whether it's my family and friends, everyone has been so supportive. No one has stood my way and been like, Gabe, don't do this. This is a bad idea. It's too risky. Everyone's been very encouraging. My family's been amazing with me. My friends have been so encouraging as well. But I have had some mentors, and I still have mentors in my life. So the first one I like to talk about. So I from the Small Business Enterprise Center in Collingwood. When I did the summer company program, his name's Tim Newton, and he's the manager of the Small Business Enterprise Center. And he's the one I spent a lot of one-on-one time with him amidst the program. He gave me lots of guidance. It was just really great. He made the program very interesting, and I still keep in touch with him now. He's a great guy, just a wealth of knowledge, right? So he's been great. He was really what made the program stand out for me. He's just an overall awesome guy. And the second one I want to talk about is, funnily enough, my Uncle Chris. So my Uncle Chris has been just an amazing mentor. I've always had such a great relationship with my Uncle Chris. I've always looked up to him. With what he's done with Brand Boulevard. I was born in 2004. He launched Brand Boulevard in 2007. I was there at some of his early, conventions and his meetings, and I was seeing what he was doing, and it's always interested me, right? And he's such a great guy, and he's been just so amazing with me. He's given me his tools to success. He's really the guy who's helped propel this business with me, and it's just having that relationship with him it's been bar none, right? So as when I started the business, we would have the bi-weekly meetings, and he would check in with me, and we would talk about things, and he would help give me deadlines, and he kept me on track. But it was just so awesome, right? Because he gave me motivation for the business, which I needed, right? Because when you have a mentor and you have the weekly meetings, it's like you can, kind of write down your ideas and say, okay, next time we meet, we're going to work on this. But he's just been great. He's given me so many resources, connections. He's been there for me. He's been just so encouraging. He's just been amazing. So I can't speak highly enough about my Uncle Chris. And I said, this business has been a group effort, and it's bar none, just family, friends, like some Uncle Chris, Tim Newton. Just shout out to them.
Yeah. They sound like as though they're textbook examples of filling that role of mentor. And also too, really quickly, I'd like to add for reference for some of the listeners of the show. Not too long ago, I had a company president on, Sean Lichtenberger, who is also the co-founder with Gabe's uncle, Chris Sinclair of brandboulevard.ca. So if you have a second, you can go back and listen to that episode to learn more about their business. But this is showing a different side as well to both of them, as far as, the influence and reach, and, what they've done and how they're helping you out as far as running this, wildly successful company. So yeah. All right. Well, let's shift on over into a new segment here, Gabe. We're into a water cooler story segment. And basically, as my guests will know, it's just a segment where I indulge or ask guests to indulge listeners with a story relating to their profession. So yeah, take it away.
Oh, thank you, Chris. So yeah, I was thinking a lot about this story, and thinking, what I could use for my water cooler story. And I think one comes to mind for sure. And this goes back all the way, starting the business. And anyway, so back in, like I said, started the business, the idea of it back in February 2020. I was very excited. I was nervous. I had all these emotions going on. I would constantly be like, oh my goodness, like, is going to be too much financially? Am I going to be okay? Can I balance school? Can I do all this? And a lot of it too was, and it comes to hitting the go button on Shopify. So this is where the story kind of takes place. This was the moment where it's kind of like, okay, I hit the go button. Something can happen where no one can go on the site. No one can buy anything. Like, there's always that risk, right? Because I put all this money behind it, and now I'm just releasing it out to the world. And it's like, well, either people will look at it or people won't, or people will invest in it, right? So anyways, I put it up, and I just had so many emotions, right? I was just like, wow, this is such an accomplishment. Like I said too, Chris, this is really what I see belong as is an experience, not only business, but an experience as well. So when I hit the go button, it went my way, and I was just overwhelmed. People people were buying merchandise, and people were just commenting and sharing my story. And I think this is part of the story. My biggest form, I would say, of success is not by sales. And I say this because with the company, I am trying to influence people with mental health and to get the conversation going. So sales, although sales have been great, way more than I expected, but this is where it comes down to. So I had someone reach out to me who's a mental health advocate, and his son unfortunately committed suicide. And I've known him for a little bit. And anyways, he reached out to me and he said, Gabe, what you're doing is absolutely amazing. He wished that there was something like this when his son was alive. And I was just taken away. And that's to me success of giving people these resources and getting the conversation going. And that's the biggest thing, right, Chris? Because when people reach out to me, and I think the sale is great of a t-shirt or anything like that, but when people reach out, it really gets to your heart, right? And it's like, wow, people are not just viewing this as an apparel company. And that really just struck me. And it's the whole story of just pursuing your passion and really just, if you have a love for something and you want to get a message out there, then you can do it. And I think the biggest thing for entrepreneurs, and just through this story, I guess it can be heard, but I think if you have a passion, do it. And if you're interested in something and you want to learn more information, or you want to start your own business with a message behind it, you can do it. And this water cooler story is just kind of amplifying how I was able to start this business, but also make a positive impact, and how success to me was from that comment that person made. And it's just amazing. And it's very overwhelming because I didn't expect it. I had nothing to really expect when I hit the go button, but really that to me, that defined success to me, that I was able to reach out, launch my business, and people were able to grab the social aspect of the social enterprise aspect of it, and just realize that's not a apparel company. When I hear those comments, it was just overwhelming. So that's definitely a story that I'll always keep and always tell. And I think it's something that really means a lot to me. So
yeah, I can see why. I mean, it's powerful. It's powerful. And it's interesting in the sense as well that, I mean, within entrepreneurship or business, kind of the perception oftentimes from the outside is that, it's people that are constantly glued to the P&L. It's just like, how much are we making? How much are we losing? And it's all about that. And oftentimes perhaps those perceptions are based on, reality for a lot of companies, but I don't think that's definitely the norm anymore, at least. And your business is one good example of that. I mean, there's something to be said, I mean, for this human experience that we're all a part of, and the impact that a business can have on people in different ways that fall outside the boundaries of just like, a sale of an item or a service. And the story that you just shared there is a perfect illustration of that. I feel that, for that person, what you're doing signifies and symbolizes a lot more, creating these conversations and helping others, hopefully moving forward. So yeah, powerful stuff there, Gabe. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that.
Oh, no problem.
Yeah. All right. Well, we are rounding the bend into the last segment here, something called the crystal ball segment. As the name implies, we're looking towards the future, trends, predictions, so on and so forth. But for you personally, I mean, you're reaching the point where your high school career is starting to wind down. You'll be off to university soon. Where does that leave Belong?
Yeah, it's it's a great question, Chris, and I think and it is a tough one to answer, right? I mean, there's so many variables, right? But
Certainly.
for me, I find I'm so excited for university, and I'm able to continue that business legacy that I've started, right? So with Belong, I do highlight it as an experience, not only just as an apparel company, because that's what, the wealth of knowledge that I've gained from running Belong has been just, bar none. And I think going to university, studying business administration, going, to seek jobs. And I just feel like it's going to be super beneficial. But in terms of Belong, I know everyone does ask me the question, am I going to be able to keep it running? So I'm not 100% sure yet, and there's a lot of things that that can take an effect. So since Belong is an e-commerce based business, I can run anywhere I like, anywhere in the world, as long as I have my computer, right?
Yep.
So I think I could keep it running. I just love it, and it's been just a great experience. So I mean, having that with going to university, it can be tough too, right? Because as I've kind of known while doing a high school and running the business, it is kind of tough at times, and it does take a lot of time out of your day, and it just depends. So I would say not 100% sure yet on where Belong's going to go, but as just to kind of summarize, just Belong's been an absolutely bar none learning experience, and it's very promptly to maybe want to take business administration university. So I'm so excited to pursue that. I'm excited to get into the business industry. I'm excited to share my story. I'm excited to learn more, and I think that's and I love this segment. I think it's just great that to see a bit into the future, and so really it's just going to be an unknown yet for Belong, but I'll try to keep it running as long as possible. So
yeah, well, we hope so. I hope so. One other quick question here, within the context of looking towards the future, being immersed within this world of, social awareness campaigns and social enterprise, are there any trends that consumers, I don't know, might be seeing coming their way down the tracks?
Yeah. So, Chris, what I've noticed in a lot of the apparel-based industry. So, one thing. So, there's basically two major items that I've noticed. So, number one, we're seeing a lot of new apparel coming out with the social enterprise or with meaning behind it. And I think that probably has happened before, but we're seeing it now than ever, because that's a big selling point, right? And that's what consumers look for, is they want to see what differentiates one company between the next, right? And to give you a reason why, you compare two companies and say, well, this one's advocating for mental health, and this one, is not, or maybe, doesn't use the high quality material, something like that. But the other item I want to talk about is what the apparel is comprised of. So what I've noticed is with apparel, there's been a lot more eco-friendly use. And I feel like we're going to be seeing more sustainable products and being used for apparel. So, we've seen a lot more maybe Canadian made, let's say, which can be a bit more pricey, or made of materials that are eco-friendly. And I think that's going to be a really big trend. And I really hope it does continue to move that way, because it is a great selling point, but also too, it's really great environmentally. We, as just a person, we know how much clothes we have. We know how we can outgrow them, how we can just throw them away because we don't like them, right? So I think it's great to have an eco-friendly aspect, and that's where I really think it's going. We're going to see the continuation of the change from just a standard apparel company with a nice logo to there's going to be more social change. There's going to be clothing that has the meaning and the eco-friendly material, and that companies are going to be using is definitely going to be amplified in the next coming years as we know the situation of climate change. So that's what I would say.
Yeah, no. Thank you for sharing that. When you're explaining that, one of the companies that comes to mind for me would be Patagonia. They seem to have been leaders within that area. They have programs like, if you've had clothing even upwards of 5-10 years that, within their product line, and for example, the zipper's broken on it, you can send it into their factory. They'll fix it up for you, ship it back out to you. And I always found that, quite interesting. Of course, they're in the business of selling product, yet at the same time, they're very, very vocal about the fact that, they understand that their industry at times can be, quite bad in a way for the environment, and not so sustainable, or eco-friendly. So they've taken steps to try to alleviate these issues, maybe at the cost of, selling extra or making more money, making more profits. But I think in doing so, it's smart. One, they have values for reasons. They care about the environment. They want to preserve it as much as they can. But then also it appeals to people. For myself, it's a brand that I am willing to pay more for their goods because I know their values align with what I believe as well. So yeah, it's certainly a positive sort of development, and I hope to see more of this moving forward. Yeah. All right. Well, I think we are drawing to a close here, Gabe. But I must say, I mean, it's been an absolute pleasure. I really, really enjoyed speaking with you. And I've already said this once, but what struck me in this conversation is that a lot of the ideas that you've communicated today, again, if somebody is just tuning in here, they would have no idea this is coming from somebody who's 18, who started the company when they're 16. Looking at the website, same thing. I think where you're at, I mean, your own self-development is is quite advanced, to put it lightly. So yeah, it's been thoroughly enjoyable, and what you've done is quite impressive. So thanks for coming on.
Chris, I can't thank you enough for your kind words and for being on the podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure, absolute honor. Our conversation has been great, and thank you once again for having me, Chris. It's been amazing.
All right, terrific. For those interested in learning more about Gabe and his company, Belong, you can find and connect with them through the website, thebelongway.com, or socially, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, at The Belong Way. If you like today's show, please be sure to share. I mean, it certainly helps, of course, grow the show, but also too, I like how it brings us all together. We learn more about each other, the stresses, the pressures, and so on. Hey, it's never going to be a bad thing. Of course, too, you can also rate, review, and subscribe to the show wherever you access your podcasts. And also to be sure to head on over to YouTube. We just launched a channel there where you can get full video conversations of these talks. If you do go over there, please hit the subscribe button. It helps more than you can know. And finally, don't forget to join us on the next episode of Life as where we'll continue to explore and unearth the details of professions and the people behind them. I'm your host, Christopher Schoenwald. Until next time, stay curious about life and living.